Welcome, friends, to another edition of Crime Time with DutyRon and Ed Wallace. We are retired New York City police detectives, and if you like all things true crime related from these two guys, please consider hitting the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, so you'll get all things DutyRon and Ed Wallace when we go live or upload another video. Tonight on Forensic Friday, we're going to talk to you and have a conversation back and forth on the Bryan Kohberger case. The case forensics, there's a lot of swirling, sourced rumors. Ed, I know how you feel about when the folks from the media say, well, from our sources, we have a gag order in this case. So they're digging up sources. We don't know if they're verified. We don't know if they're vetted. We have to, listen to what they're reporting on, not knowing if, in fact, it is true, not true, and anything in between. Hey, before we get into it, let's say thank you to our Patreon supporters, the channel members, the subscribers, the replay viewers, the moderators who do it for free, the folks who send us cards and letters. You guys are unbelievable. We thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Ed, how you doing on a Friday night? And it's been a while since we did Forensic Friday, about 12 days.
Yes, it has. Yes, it has. But let me tell you about sources. The only source I trust is my wife's white clam sauce. All right. That said, I'm glad to be here. Okay. And, I'm feeling much better these days. I know it's been a rough couple of days for me with time changes and flights and all of that stuff. And I really, took a toll on me, plus a lot of other stressors in my life. But I feel better today. Thank you very much. Excellent.
Excellent, Ed. I'm glad that you're feeling better. Let's say thank you to all the live chatters that are here. And Kitty, KU, she gifted one DutyRon membership. So thank you so much for doing that. We greatly appreciate it. And a 7-month DutyRon member in the silver tier, 616 Love, says the best. Thank you, gentlemen. Well, thank you. We appreciate you. So I'm going to get right into this. I want to dive into it. But before we do, Ed, I want to talk to you. I wrote up some questions myself to ask you tonight, but I wanted to ask you, how important is the forensics in this case? 4 victims, 1 alleged perpetrator in custody, a huge crime scene that goes from the house at the crime scene location to his Pullman, Washington housing to the state of Pennsylvania, and that whole route that they took, that obscure route down through Colorado, back across the United States to Monroe County. How important is that, Ed?
It's huge. I mean, this whole case is forensics. It's either digital forensics, plus it's your DNA, which was critical in this case, the DNA one, forensics, plus, now understand we have DNA evidence in his house from people from the crime scene, which is huge. You have, again, you got the Lacarge exchange principle. You have all this linkage going on. It's huge.
Yeah. And, I'm sporting my Faro nice dry fit polo. It looks like a nice golf shirt. I'm going to use it when I go out on the golf course in the summer. Ed's got one, but I didn't get a chance to get it over to him. I'm waiting to see Ed in person to hand him his Faro mug. So thank you to Luke Hall from Faro Industries. We also, both of us, have our own cup holders and a tumbler from Faro. So we got a lot of swag coming in from Faro Industries. Ed, you got one of these too.
Chasky. Okay.
Yes. Let's play this piece by Dan Abrams. He is talking about, again, folks, sources. Take this stuff, and Ed, you and I spoke about this before we went live. You got to take this source stuff with a grain of salt. Now, we're not saying that they're full of, I said the S word. We're not saying they're full of that. But what we're saying is because of the gag order and because the news has an obligation from their bosses to put out information and put shows out. Sometimes they put 2 and 3 shows a day out on the same topic with different guests. But we're just saying, wait until the trial starts to hear the real bona fide information that's coming out. But again, we still want to talk on this. Riding Moon, thank you for becoming a channel member. So Ed, without further ado, I'm going to share this. This may be painful for some, but we need to, hear what these guys are talking about. This is just from 20 hours ago, so just yesterday, Dan Abrams, and he puts the blame on Chris Cuomo. He doesn't even say, this is my reporting. He says, as per Chris Cuomo. So let's take a peek at this.
Tonight, with the breaking news that happened in the last hour, Chris Cuomo reporting exclusively from law enforcement sources that Bryan Kohberger, the suspect in the Idaho murders, is now being investigated for possible additional murders in the state of Pennsylvania. Now remember, Kohberger was arrested at his parents' home in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania on December 30th. It's a month and a half after the brutal killings of the University of Idaho students Ethan Chapin, Madison Mogen, Xana Kernodle, and Kaylee Gonzalez. We know Kohberger grew up in the Pocono Mountains in Pennsylvania before moving out to Washington State near the Idaho border for grad school. We also know he previously graduated from Northampton Community College in Pennsylvania in 2018, and that while there, he worked security for the Pleasant Valley School District. He also attended nearby DeSales University until 2022, both schools about an hour away from where his parents live. Now, when news of Kohberger's arrest first broke, Pennsylvania authorities said they were going to go back with a fine-tooth comb. They were going to look at open and cold cases that may have fit the MO of the Idaho killer. It was one of the first things that local officials did, looking for any connection between Kohberger and unsolved cases in the area. Kohberger remains in an Idaho jail tonight, awaiting his preliminary hearing in June. Authorities have said he has no official and known prior criminal record. Joining me now on this breaking news is former CIA and FBI agent Tracy Walder. She's also a Newsnation national security contributor. Thanks very much for coming on the program. Appreciate it. So I guess it shouldn't be that surprising that this investigation started, right, in the state of Pennsylvania. But now the fact that they may have identified particular cases, that sure is a development.
Well, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, Dan. So, I think really what investigators had at their disposal now, once he was arrested, was really access to VICAP, or the Violent Criminal Apprehension Program. And really what they have there is the benefit of basically going into a database clearinghouse and looking for crimes that had similar patterns, similar manner of death, similar motivations, those kinds of things. And I think that really probably helped them put the pieces of the puzzle together, as well as now having his DNA, because quite frankly, if they did have a murder, his DNA wouldn't have come up as a hit. As you mentioned, he had no prior criminal record. So I think the fact that he has committed other crimes is perhaps not surprising.
And
so I want to stop it there, Ed, because I think we heard enough. I see your expressions as we're sitting in the green room, me and you together.
Can I say it? Can I say it?
Go ahead.
Duh. Oh, come on. I mean, we said this in the beginning. We said it'd be law enforcement malpractice if law enforcement in Pennsylvania, in those communities where he lived and went to school and worked, did not pull up their old cases and look at this guy for them. They're cold cases. Okay.
But I question how it is breaking news, because we're not hearing from the Monroe County district attorney. We're not hearing from surrounding counties. All we heard from them in the past is that there was no connection based on his DNA in, CODIS and then this bike.
So let me break that down.
Yeah, could you break that down, Ed? Because
I'm going to break it down for the folks. Okay, folks. Here's the deal. Okay, in CODIS, the Combined Offender DNA Index database, right, that the FBI handles, you have two sets of DNA database. You have the offenders that have been arrested and known criminals, and then you have the suspect crime scene samples. Okay. Now, once Brian's DNA was collected after he was arrested, it was placed in CODIS after the genetic profile was established. And it was checked against the unknown crime scene samples. Had there been a hit, I think we would have known about it way before today. Mm-hmm. And there would have been indictments and arrests and charges for those crimes. So apparently, he was not in the system for DNA purposes of unsolved crimes in and around Pennsylvania where he lived. Now, that doesn't mean that he didn't commit any crimes in the Pennsylvania area. Because as I said too, way back when we started this, you just don't leap into quadruple homicide. Okay. Typically, you know, if this somebody gradually works up to something like this. So it was my opinion that, you know, he may be a serial killer. Okay. I remember saying that back a while ago. Okay.
And this may be, I mean, again, key words here, Ed, is the may be, because we don't know definitively. This is, again, in my eyes, and everybody views and listens to this stuff differently. This is, again, as you're stating, and you're backing this up with facts and knowledge. This is not breaking news.
Right.
You know, and we don't even know if, in fact, there is anybody that is, you know, that they are looking at this time, because if in fact they are, they haven't come out with it. And all Dan does here is put the blame on Chris Cuomo for reporting it. So he's just regurgitating it, so to speak. And he is putting that out. Now, it could be true and it could not be true. But the bottom line is that we have to realize, as you said, Ed, if in fact it was a direct CODIS hit or a direct hit on his DNA, which is now in that system. And I have a little bit of this was just randomly on my desk. I wasn't even having this for the show, but I have so many papers here. But look, is everyone, a question from one of our viewers, is everyone's DNA in CODIS? How does DNA get into CODIS? And you are now answering those questions.
Right. So there's two sources for CODIS, right? There's the unknown, unidentified DNA profiles from crime scenes and from police labs that develop them. And then there's the offender database of known criminals that are in there. So the average citizen's DNA, if you've never been arrested, never been put on probation or given parole or any of those things, you typically don't have your DNA in CODIS, okay? Unless you committed crimes and just weren't caught for it, and now your DNA could be in CODIS, and they just haven't caught up to you to arrest you and get your DNA to match it to the crime scene DNA.
Absolutely. And this is valuable information for folks who want to educate themselves. Again, Ed Wallace has got, you know, many, many years in crime scene and evidence collection. He's, you know, a forensic expert. He knows his stuff. Worked in the New York City Medical Examiner's Office after he retired with Barbara Butcher in a forensic lab. And I just want to also say, before I forget, Maddie Boy Sully gifted 5 memberships. Thank you, Maddie, for the gifting of the memberships, and welcome to all the members.
Thanks, Maddie.
Yeah, you're the man. Appreciate you, brother. Maddie's dad, retired NYPD duty captain from Brooklyn North. May he continue to rest in peace. Thank you, Maddie Boy Sully, for always being a part of Crime Time with DutyRon. All right, I hate to do this to you, Ed, but you know, so we're talking. I think we put CODIS to sleep. We've put the CODIS to bed, but I can't go any further without addressing this. The sheath that was recovered in one of the victims' bedrooms, I believe it was in Kaylee and Maddie's bedroom, where they were both murdered. The K-bar style knife sheath with the touch DNA on the clip, the metal clip that holds the knife in. Knife has not been recovered, ladies and gentlemen, but that touch DNA was sent in the probable cause affidavit. We all read this. It was sent to the Idaho State Crime Lab, and it says in the PCA that they identified unidentified male touch DNA, right? On that crime sheet. Right? Why would they now, after they put it in the PCA, the probable cause affidavit, now send it to a startup? This is what's being reported. Now, I know that you're going to tell us a little bit about this, but to a startup, Silicon Valley, as Howard Blum put it. Not a big fan of him, but he puts in an interview with Megyn Kelly that it goes to some first time ever testing DNA crime lab, not crime lab, and it's not even a lab, right? Goes down to a facility in Texas. Why did that happen, Ed?
First of all, this is a big nothing burger, folks. This is the media blowing this up to try to make some kind of story. There is nothing here whatsoever. First of all, they got their funding from a Silicon Valley to start up a DNA laboratory for Familia DNA and they've been doing it for a while, and their work is top notch. Has been accepted in courts. Okay. Again, remember we had Dr. Fitzpatrick on, right? And she talked, Colleen Fitzpatrick, that's right. She talked about the different types of DNA. So crime lab DNA is going to do a PCR DNA workup to fit CODIS requirements. Okay, well, that particular type of workup is not necessarily good to do familia matching. So the crime lab in Idaho sent the material to this lab in Texas to do snippet DNA extraction.
The whole knife sheath was transported to.
I'm not sure how they did it. I'm not sure whether they submitted the whole knife sheet or they submitted the swabbing from the sheet. I don't know how they did it.
Okay.
But whatever means, they got it down there and they did what they do. They extracted snippet DNA, got a profile, and then they were able to do a genetic match between the father's DNA that they recovered from the garbage at the Pennsylvania's neighbor's house.
Okay. And is this any kind of problem for the case? Will this help the prosecution or the defense? Will this help aid the defense as reported?
It's not going to aid the defense. And it's the media that keeps saying, oh, they've never done this before. They've done thousands of genetic profiles. Mm-hmm. What they haven't done is a live criminal case. Okay. That's the difference.
That's not what they were asked to do. They weren't asked to do a criminal workup. They were asked to do a familia. Yeah. Right.
Involving a criminal case.
Thank you.
Okay.
Criminal part side of it could be handled at the Idaho State Crime Lab, correct?
Say again?
The criminal part of it, doing a criminal,
the PCR DNA extraction and yes.
All right. I think we cleared that up. Bentley's Adventure became a new channel member. Thank you. Thank you. And JC sends in a $10 super chat and says, Ed's on fire tonight. Is there any time that Ed's not on fire?
When I'm tired and coming back from Moldova. Okay, give me a break.
Right, but you're still on fire, even tired, Ed. So come on,
this guy is on fire. Okay, no.
Ed's starting to sing. Okay, so we cleared that issue up because I had a 3-minute piece. Let's not waste 3 minutes of your time and my time and everybody else's time listening to that.
No, let's show it. You're talking about with Blum?
Yeah, you want to see?
Show it.
All right. But then I want to go after that into sources again connected to the Idaho stabbings. They found identification of one of the potential victims of this crime at one of Kohberger's residences, presumably Pennsylvania. So we're going to go to that.
Huge.
I'm going to put you full screen because I got to look for it because I had the other thing queued up. Ed, you want to just say hello to a couple of people in the chat?
Yes. First of all, I'd be remiss if I didn't thank you all for your condolences and those of you who sent cards to DutyRon's P.O. Box. I got them. Thank you very much for the condolences and birthday wishes and so forth and so on. Secondly, I'd be remiss, again, if I did not wish everybody a happy Easter, happy Passover, a happy Ramadan for those that are celebrating these holidays in this week. And I appreciate you all being here tonight. I appreciate all your support. I appreciate our true crime family here. And let's see, anybody have any good questions here? I'm looking in the chat, so fire away while we're waiting for Ron to give his techno stuff. Hello from New Jersey, Elaine. All right. Yes, today is Good Friday, folks. Remember that, all right? For those who are in the Christian faith. I'm looking. All right. DutyRon, why is Sally Port called a Sally Port? That's a good one. And I'll let DutyRon answer that.
Well, you know what? I should know the answer to it, but the Sally Port is where you're going to get in and out of protected facilities, jails and prisons. They call them a Sally Port. It's locked in on all sides, so you can't have anybody coming in and out. but I do not. Ed's probably Google.
I'm going to look at it right now.
I knew it. I knew that you were down there looking at it.
What is the origin of Sallyport?
So, of course,
According to Military Wiki, fandom.
Yep. Sorry, it came up. You ready, guys? You want to hear this?
Okay, go ahead, Ed.
What is the origin of Sallyport?
According to Military Wiki, fandom, it may include the use of two doors such as with an airlock. In former times, from around 1600 to 1900, a Sallyport was a sort of dock where boats would pick up a ship's crew and ferry them to the vessel anchored offshore, or vice versa. The term is occasionally still used today, especially in coastal Great Britain.
There you go.
All right, but it is what I described. The Sallyport is a secured area within a jail or a prison where police vehicles and transport vehicles come in. Most of the time, there's a gate to enter and a gate to leave. And when you go in, the gate closes behind you, and then the gate opens when you get ready to go out. You go in, you get your prisoner in a secure area, you bring him out to the car, and you bring him out. All right, here it is. It took me a little time. This is Brian Entin from Newsnation, and he is interviewing Howard Blum. Not a fan of this guy, but he does say some interesting stuff.
About the
I love Brian Entin. I'm talking about Howard Blum.
knife sheath and where it was sent to be tested. My next guest has new information on that. Joining us now is journalist and best-selling author Howard Blum, who has worked for the New York Times and Vanity Fair. He is currently writing a book about Bryan Kohberger and covering the case for Air Mail News. Thank you so much for coming on, Howard. I'm a big fan of your recent articles on the case. Appreciate you taking the time tonight. I want to talk about the testing of this knife sheath and what you have learned about it.
Well, as you pointed out earlier, the police were all along moving forward, even though we in the media, the public didn't know what was happening. And they were focusing on Bryan Kohberger. But they couldn't completely make the case so they could issue an arrest warrant. What they did is they had the knife sheath, and they had on the button of the knife sheath, they had touch.
Ed, here's a good question on the screen. I'm going to put it up, but I can't keep it up the whole time. It comes from DC Pacific Northwest. Question: if he had the ID in gloves, presumably because he wore gloves committing the crime, that's a presumption. What is the best case scenario for getting evidence crime off of it? We'll get to that after we listen to the rest of it.
DNA, so they could issue an arrest warrant. What they did is they had the knife sheath, and they had on the button of the knife sheath, they had touch DNA, and they had no way to tie that to Kohberger. And the Idaho lab came up with this idea of using a separate lab in Texas. This lab had specialized in proprietary devices that made what is called kinship DNA. You could figure out a relative of the DNA that you already had. And this lab was set up to investigate unsolved murders. It was backed by some Silicon Valley venture capitalists. It was a never before used in a present case, just only in cold cases.
So let me just interrupt you. Sorry to interrupt you, but you're saying.
All right. I think, did we hear enough of that, Ed?
Yeah.
Or do you want to hear more?
No, I mean, we can go in. You can play more, but
he goes on to say that how good this lab is.
That's right. There's nothing detrimental here.
All right, let's listen to
this lab that they sent the knife sheath to has never been used before, except in cold cases.
Yes, this was the first time they were willing to take a chance. They wanted desperately to make an arrest. They wanted desperately to tie the suspect to this knife sheath. So meanwhile, in Pennsylvania, they gathered, they had that midnight garbage run.
Right.
They picked up garbage that was the father's DNA. They could then send that to the lab.
Let's be clear here. This is a news reporter, an author. He has no evidence or forensic background. He's not an investigator. And again, I'm responding to this from stuff in the chat.
Yeah, and let's be clear as well. He's not saying anything detrimental to the case. Nothing he says here is
right.
Wrong,
in this
and
report,
it's not detrimental to the case.
Absolutely, and
it's the reporters that are making it to seem to be something nefarious, and it's not.
Right, and because they are being pushed to present
To sensationalize it. It's a big nothing burger.
Yes, yes. Dawn Clatterman has it perfect right there. Sensationalism. But what he does say here, and again, I want everyone to hear this. Brian asks him about the legitimacy of this lab and so forth, and I'm going to let this play without interrupting it.
They picked up garbage that was the father's DNA. They could then send that to the lab, tie it to the knife sheath, and they could make this kinship. And now they could say within 0.99.9% positive.
Right. I just want to zero in, Howard, on this Texas lab, because this is new information that you've reported that I didn't know until you reported it. When you say never before done technology that they're using, that it's only been used on cold cases, I mean, couldn't this be an issue for the prosecution? This seems like something the defense could really zero in on. Why did the knife sheath get sent to this lab that has never done this kind of work before?
I don't think so. I actually think it will reinforce the prosecution's case. This lab is very respectable. Their cases, their evidence has been, the methodology has been held up in court time after time. And I think this reinforces the prosecution's case. I don't think it will be, it's not a positive for Kohberger.
Let me ask you, because we did a story.
Shut him off.
Yeah, that's it. He's got feedback going on. It's a freaking whole cluster over there. So again, there's people in the chat chiming in, talking about sensationalism, the news here. Edmo says the news makes everything sound as if it is real, truth, and breaking news. That is the problem. And I agree. And part of this problem, Ed, and you and I can agree on this, and I think we in the chat here can agree as well. It's because the judge put a gag order in this case. And the media is so badly wanting to report on things that they're now squeezing people, and they're getting sources. They're sources. And heck, I've made so many new videos, short, long form, on Banfield, and I used to really have a tremendous amount of respect for her, and she really sunk down low on my totem pole when she started with all of her sourced information, not really caring about hurting a case, just putting stuff out there, throwing Xana Canodal's mom on, who was apparently suffering from drug abuse and so forth, and it was just a horrible, horrible look. But let's reel it back in. Ed, this place down in Texas, utilized by the Idaho, the state crime lab, it's not a bad thing. It's not hurting anything.
It made the case. It made the case. How can you argue with what happened? They got the familiar DNA off the touch DNA. It matched the father's DNA taken out of the neighbor's garbage can that the son placed those items there. It's huge. There's no way this is going to come back. I mean, these are not flunkies, and this is not some brand new lab that just popped out of the woodwork and they said, "Oh, Idaho State Crime Lab, let's just take a shot on these nobodies."
Right. Hey, and let's also look at what's going on here. The Idaho State Police, the Moscow Police Department, the FBI, and everybody who's got the hand in this investigation wants to see justice served. Okay, whether that means a guilty verdict or not guilty verdict, they want the process to go smoothly without a hitch. And we're going to talk about the Brady Giglio situation later on in the program, but let's hold some of those questions in that regard to the end. I want to say hello to a couple people. Florida Pete is here. Let It Be Summer is also in the house. Black Rose 11, happy belated birthday. Kathy, she turned, I think, 30 or 31 last Sunday. So happy birthday, Kathy.
Happy birthday.
She's a nice young lady, and she does a lot of great chats and does a lot of moderating for us. So thank you.
There was a question earlier when you were looking up the information and playing the video about fingerprint databases. So the name of the fingerprint database is called AFIS, Automated Fingerprint Identification System. So I hope that answers your question.
Look what we got here, Ed. Maggie.
From Paraguay, South America. Hello, Maggie.
Can you pronounce that name, Ed?
Rusanik Kalsin.
Kelsen. I would have said Kelsen.
Kelsen, I think you're right.
Yeah, Kelsen. Well, Maggie, thank you for becoming a channel member or being a channel member here on Crime Time with DutyRon. Ed and I appreciate it. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. Ed and I would appreciate if you could take the time out to hit the thumbs up. Let's get this thing over 1,000 thumbs up. Somebody said that just now in the chat. Florida Pete is in the building, and we appreciate you. If you're not following us on all things social media, one word, DutyRon. I made it easy. I didn't want to put DutyRon and Ed, and plus Ed would get mad at me because he's not on some kind of social media. But guess what? He's also now on TikTok, unbeknownst to him. Me, Ed.
What are you going to do when they ban it? Huh? What are you going to do?
We'll go. We're on Instagram. They're not banned on Instagram. We're on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. I call it Fakebook. So make sure you follow me and Ed on all social medias. Again, if Ed is going to put up a fight to it, where he's going to lose because I'm posting the stuff on my account, but Ed's there. He's on it. So it's not his personal branded social media, but it's his DutyRon branded social media because he's a part of this.
Hey, Julie Lynn is here from Hawaii. Aloha.
Yes, aloha. All right. I want to go to this next piece that I promised everybody because we're working with a little bit of time constraints here. Pete and Richella Pranzo, Lieutenant Pete from the NYPD Harlem Raiders, retired street crime lieutenant, and his better half, Richella. Thank you for being here over in Mount Sinai on Long Island. It's great to see you guys. All right. So this is, again, more of the sourced information from 22 hours ago. We're going to hear from Jennifer Koffendorfer on this, but they're going to talk about the IDs from potential. This is not verified information. This is their sourced stuff, but this is what's out there in current, that they're breaking news that they're talking about. You'll hear those words. And they're going to talk about a possible connection to an identification, an ID, whether that's a driver's license, a college ID, we don't know, of one of the victims. So let's take a listen to what they reported just 22 hours ago.
But first, we begin tonight with the breaking news that happened in the last hour. Chris Cuomo reporting exclusively from law enforcement sources that Bryan Kohberger, the suspect in the Idaho murders, is now being investigated for possible additional murders in the state of Pennsylvania.
I screwed up. DutyRon screwed up. Let's cue it back up. I had them back to back. But all right,
thanks for playing, Ron. Here's your parting gift.
I got the right one now.
Don't let your door hit you in the 6 on the way out.
Thanks, Ed. Thank you. Hey, Ed, you know what I like about you? You're so supportive when I screw up. You love to jump on the pile. I guess that's an NYPD thing, right? We love to like kick
them when they're down.
Son of a bitch. Thank you, Ed. I appreciate it. That's why I love you. All right, here we go. This is the right one, guys.
Let's turn now to news that broke last hour. Exclusive details related to the investigation of Bryan Kohberger, the suspect in the murder of those 4 University of Idaho students. Chris Cuomo reporting an identification connected to someone from the home in Moscow, Idaho, where the murders took place, was found during a search of one of Bryan Kohberger's residences. In addition to a supposed DNA found on a knife sheath at the scene, that could become the most significant piece of evidence tying
play that again, please.
To the victims. And police sources also telling news. In addition to a supposed DNA found on a knife sheath at the scene, that could become the most significant piece of evidence.
Go back again. I want to hear the exact words again.
Now to news that broke last hour. Exclusive details related to the investigation of Bryan Kohberger, the suspect in the murder of those 4 University of Idaho students. Chris Cuomo reporting an identification connected to someone from the home in Moscow, Idaho, where the murders took place, was found during a search of one of Bryan Kohberger's residences. In addition to a supposed DNA found on a knife sheath at the scene, that could become the most significant piece of evidence tying Kohberger to the victims. And police sources also telling Newsnation they have evidence that connects Kohberger to what they are viewing as cyber stalking of someone from that same home. Let's bring back in retired FBI agent and Newsnation legal contributor Jennifer Koffendorfer. Thanks for coming back. Appreciate it. Let's take these one by one. If true, the ID seems like a huge piece of evidence.
It's Very big. It's so powerful because now there is absolutely no explanation for why he would have an ID from somebody in that house. And recall, on the search warrant number 35 from the house that was searched of his parents, it lists IDs in a glove in a box, not in a glove compartment, in a glove in a box in the house.
Right. So what kind of evidence might they?
Where did she say that came from, Ed?
In a glove, in a box, in his house in Pennsylvania. Okay, now that's huge. If he's collecting IDs, okay, you know, serial killers do this a lot. They call them trophies. Okay.
Yeah.
And maybe, just maybe, there are IDs for people in Pennsylvania.
Right.
That's
but here's my problem with this is, right, if this sourced information, let's just say, let's play devil's advocate here. Let's say this is true, right? If it's true, whoever leaked it out should be punished, locked up, charged with criminal contempt, right? If it's coming from one of the investigators close to this case, example, a patrol officer, an investigative support staff, in the Fugitive Enforcement Division, me as a detective in warrants, in the warrant squad, I used to get called out to crime scenes, homicides, and go and take all of my warrants for violent arrests and go and debrief these people. So I had inside information about homicides that were being investigated. That would be like me calling up the news and saying, "Hey, you didn't hear this from me, but guess what? They found this, this, and this." I mean, that's fucked up. I think
it is.
I believed it the right way.
Right, but it is. But you know, folks, don't get confused here, because I saw somebody wrote, "How do they know whose ID it is?" I think they're talking about physical identification cards, okay, not per se DNA, okay. So apparently there were multiple. It appears to be multiple identification cards inside of a glove in a cardboard box found at his Pennsylvania house.
Right. Yeah. So I want to let the rest of this play because she goes on to talk more. And I love Jennifer Koffendorfer. She's a friend of mine. We talk on the phone quite a bit. She's been really busy lately, so I haven't spoke back and forth with her in a good minute. But I consider Jen a friend, and she's a contributor on Newsnation. So let's listen to the rest of this.
Do you think on this?
In a glove, a box, searched of his call on the search warrant number 35 to have an ID from somebody in that house.
It's listed in the probable cause in the return. I mean, on the search
in the search warrant return.
935.
Yeah.
And recall, on the search warrant number 35 from the house that was searched of his parents, it lists IDs in a glove in a box.
But it doesn't
not
say
in a
whose
glove
ID.
compartment, in a glove, in a box, in the house.
But it doesn't say whose ID. It just says identification.
Right. Well, you know, I don't think that they would put that kind of information in the return to the judge on the warrant. I wouldn't do that. That would be detrimental to the case. If they had that, okay, if they had the name of the one of the victims from the Idaho quadruple homicides ID in there.
Yeah, they wouldn't make that. They wouldn't put that. All right.
But again, so he could have multiple IDs there. Maybe that's, you know, associated with the cold cases in Pennsylvania.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Could be anything. It doesn't say specifically. There's no, they don't elaborate. And like you said, Ed, it could be for some good reasons. It could be because it could be from somebody from within that home where the murders took place, or it could be some other people. And don't forget, he was on Tinder, Match.com, and all of these dating services. And we did hear from one of the girls that he went on a date with, and she described him as creepy. So, you know, who knows? Let's listen to the rest of this because it's only a couple minutes.
And recall, on the search warrant number 35 from the house that was searched of his parents, it lists IDs in a glove in a box, not in a glove compartment, in a glove in a box in the house.
No,
right.
Pause it.
What kind of evidence might they?
Allie, what we're talking about here is not the warrant itself, but after the warrant is executed, all the evidence that is collected based on this warrant is categorized and numbered and given back to the judge upon completion of the search warrant. And so we're not talking about the actual warrant that was issued to go in there and search. We're talking about the law enforcement officers reporting back to the judge who signed the warrant. These are the items we collected based on your warrant. And item number 35 is a glove found with multiple ID cards inside of a box.
Correct. Thank you for that explanation, Ed. Crime Solver sends in a $5 super chat and says, now that it's leaked, will it be restricted from evidence? It's not leaked. This is evidence that was on the, as Ed just said, I'm expanding on what he just said. To answer your question, Crime Solver, no, it's not going to be restricted from evidence because it's listed as in the warrant return that's required to do it in a certain amount of time. And I think in Pennsylvania, it's different than New York, but it's just an interval of time that you have to wait, that you have to return the warrant back to the judge. He signs it. He wants to know what the results were of the warrant. And this information is the results of a warrant. But what they're saying is specifically that it could be, or they're saying that it is one of the IDs from one of the murdered victims. And that we don't know.
And this information was released to the public, okay, from the court. This wasn't part of any gag order or anything that was being shielded. It was released to the public, and the press has got their hands on it.
Correct, but it didn't say what this title says right here. Look, breaking news: cops found ID of Moscow, Idaho home resident in suspect Kohberger's
No, it
home.
doesn't say that. Somebody had to.
They're saying sources gave them this information. And that's where my pissed offness comes into play, because Ed, you and I are here and on YouTube and in our retired life because we want justice for victims and their families. And I think all of us who follow these cases want justice. And when I see shit like that, it just blows my mind. And I'm not pointing the finger at any one particular person. I'm just pointing my finger at it all in general. Because anybody that does that or that participates in that kind of conversation, in my eyes, and this is our show, me and you, Ed, we do this show together. Anybody that does that does not have the best interest of the victims who have no voice, are now dead, and their families, and the police, and the investigators, and the prosecutors, and everybody involved, the community, everybody that's affected by this. That doesn't help. And that's my point. And I think people misconstrue what I try to say in these things. They think, well, you're being too harsh. Well, no, because I myself, and so have you, Ed, have been to these crime scenes and seen victims like this, shot, stabbed, smothered, hung, choked to death, all sorts of things we've seen, all kinds of gruesome murders.
Horrific. Yes.
Not horrific. And this is not a joke. This is not a game. This is not something that you're playing with people's lives here. This is what we're talking about.
Well, you're mucking with the system.
Going off on this like this?
No, you're absolutely right. Whoever's doing this is potentially hurting the case, hurting the criminal justice system. For what? For ego? For trying to make a name for themselves with somebody in the media or whatever, trying to press somebody or potentially get another job after their law enforcement career in media. Who knows the motives for why people do this, but they got to stop. It's not right. Okay. And they should know better, because if the shoe was on the other foot and it was their case and they were the lead investigator, I think they'd be pretty up in arms about this leak.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're seeing this. The investigators are seeing this. The prosecutors are seeing this. They're looking at this stuff. And they're like, what the heck? Long Island, New York, fellow neighbor, I'm from Long Island, New York, $20 super chat and says, oh my God, I came on late. I love listening to my New York people. Well, we love having you here. So
Long Island.
Long Island. Make me a Long Island iced tea. I'm ready for a drink.
Oofa.
Even though I don't drink. All right, let's let the rest of this play, and then we want to move on because we're getting late in the show.
Do you think, on the cyber stalking side of this, and how significant is that?
Thing.
It's significant to me because what it does is it shows the connection of stalking physically that we know about through the phone pings 12 of them in and around that house. And now we have possible cyber stalking. Why do people stalk? They stalk because they feel mistreated, they feel persecuted, and that's the same reason they kill. So this is a direct correlation, I believe.
Yeah, and this is the sort of evidence that they can uncover in a whole variety of ways, right?
Absolutely. They've done a full digital analysis of all the phones, and specifically of his phone. There's going to be a treasure trove of information from those phones. We saw it in Murdaugh. We're going to see it in this case as well.
Phones, his computers, any place he had access to it, any place he might have logged in. Jennifer Coffindaffer, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All right, we got through that whole thing.
Yeah, yeah. And those computer searches are going to be huge, and the social media is going to be huge. In addition, folks, I'm not saying that he is a serial killer, but you know, there's possibility here, and serial killers have been known to take trophies of their victims, okay, so that they can relive the memory of what they did in their minds over and over again. Jeffrey Dahmer comes to mind, okay, Ted Bundy, so forth.
Right. Hey, I always do this, but I think I can't play this enough. The Faro 3D laser scanning, right? They're talking about, this is another component that I have in my notes that I want to get to with you. The University of Idaho is now planning to demolish 1122 King Road. Folks in the chat, Ed and I will ask you, please let us know about your feelings. Put a 1 in the chat if you feel it should be demolished before the trial commences. Put a 2 in the chat if you feel it's a no bueno. No. I'm putting my vote in number 2 after speaking and conferring with Ed Wallace. Ed, you want to talk just a little bit about it? I know we did already, but we're going to go there.
Okay. I've said this before. I'll say it again. It's not a good idea.
And
it's not a good idea. Here's several reasons. One, yes, the 3D laser scanner is great. It gives you that virtual reality. Fine. But what it doesn't give you is sound, smell, and other sensory information that you can only get from the residents. Okay. You know, if you want to go there and then stay on the second floor and put somebody in the back bedroom on the third floor and have someone walk around, see if you can hear them walking around, or have someone ascend the stairs and see if the stairs creak and you can hear someone who's walking up the stairs, or have somebody in the bedroom downstairs behind the kitchen scream or say something to see if somebody on the third floor bedroom can hear anything. All these things can't be accomplished with the 3D laser scanner. Okay. And my math on this is 1 is none and 2 is 1. So better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it.
And let me ask you, Ed, in your experience, in some of you're an expert witness for the prosecution and for the defense at particular times, right? As a crime scene evidence collection and expert and DNA expert and so forth. Have you seen this Faro 3D laser scanner utilized by juries in some of the trials that you've been on? And if so, or if not, how much does, I mean, there was the conversation on the Murdaugh trial that they did do the 3D laser scanning, but the jury wanted to go to Moselle and see the dog kennels and see that crime scene. Mm-hmm. They wanted to see it, and it was either pushed, I think, by the prosecution or the defense, or both. They encouraged them to do it. It was a field trip. We all remember they went down there, police escort. Like you said, you don't get the creaks. Of course, the inside of 1122 King Road is not the same. There's not blood all over the place. There's no beds in place. Everything, it's a shell, right? Mm-hmm. So, but they're going to be able to be inside that shell with the supplemental video and high-res photos that the crime scene took, right? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And that Faro 3D laser scanners, mm-hmm. We confirmed with Luke that they did those. So why not save that residence, have it up for them to go in and look? It's not going to be anything, because they're not going to see blood. They're not going to see, I would not think, I think everything would be cleaned up. And they're not going to see the living quarters. It's just, they're going to get in and look around and then be able to compare that look around and that feel with the photos and videos. Am I off on that one, Ed?
No, No, you're spot on.
Yeah.
You know, listen, we're beating a dead horse here. We all know that it should stay. All right. The only people pushing it to be demolished right now is the university, and I think they need to rein the university in and say, okay, hold on there. Okay, pump the brakes.
Right. Exactly.
Okay, let's put, if you're concerned about these victims, and you're concerned about a fair trial, and you want justice to prevail here, leave the house alone until after the trial.
Right. Yeah. Here's one of our good friends. She always comes in on the show. I'm going to share the link because I want some people, if you don't mind, we'll take a little Q&A with some people coming up and asking questions. Ed?
If you could not reconstruct the scene to an exact replica, a scanner is a miracle. Why demolish a contained scene in the house prior to trial? Exactly. I mean, first of all, the initial scans, hopefully, God willing, were done while the bodies were still in situ and all the evidence was still there. So hopefully you have, that. Okay, the defense teams definitely doesn't. The scene had been way altered after when the defense team got in there with their scanner. So the defense team's scan is going to be totally different in the fact that the evidence has been moved, the bodies have been moved, and so forth.
Right.
So, the best hope you have is that those original scan from the crime scene investigators to be as accurate as possible. But again, I fall back on it. Doesn't give you sound. It doesn't give you smell. It doesn't give you some of the other sensory perceptions. Right. It doesn't give you the things, like I said,
doors. They can open up the door that Kohberger allegedly had to open to get into some of these rooms because it's been it's been talked about that that the doors were closed and that he had to open them somehow or get in or so they'll be able to do that.
I grew up in a house that when I was a kid at the time that I was a kid was over 100 years old. All right. And I mean, it had its own creaks and sounds and I knew when somebody was ascending the stairs heading to the second floor. You couldn't get up there without creating the steps to creak. Right. I knew when somebody was opening a closet door because that particular closet door had this squeak. No matter how much oil we gave the hardware, it still squeaked. Okay.
Correct.
And we had different heating systems back then. We didn't have heating systems with all this ductwork, and ductwork carries sound. Okay.
Absolutely. So it's you get the feel for the home. Debbie Jackson Smith sends in a $2 super chat. She said, "I'm a 2. I agree with Ed. What if they want to see?" Yeah, she's a retired, I think, jailer and police in the police field. So Deb, thank you for that super chat. Thank you for all your contributions to Crime Time with DutyRon. All right, Idaho Crime Lab. Florida State. I think it was FIU. FIU. I think Florida State, Florida University. They have a wonderful program there. I just want to play this little piece. I'm not going to play the whole thing, but I want people to see some of the technology that's used in processing these crime scenes, because this is again, I played it many times. I want to play this, and then we'll go to the audience for questions, and I'm going to share a link. If you want to come up, ask questions about forensics and DNA, not about theories or hypothesizing and theorizing. Let's just keep it to evidence. Let me play this real quick. I played it quite a few times, but I think it's important for some folks to see this.
A seemingly unremarkable apartment, the scene of horrific violence. A victim who did not survive, a potential murder weapon, blood spatter, clues for investigators on the walls, floors, just about everywhere.
We have a laptop computer, which would be collected for digital evidence.
And while this crime scene investigator might look like he's carefully processing an active murder case, that's actually not the case at all. He is Kevin Lothridge, giving Newsnation an exclusive tour of Florida International University's Global Forensic and Justice Center.
Every crime scene is unique, from the largest to the smallest.
The university's mock crime scene, west of Tampa, has hosted thousands of police officers and military investigators for training ever since its opening in 2018. Students learn to first secure the crime scene and prevent contamination.
Have you been there, Ed?
Yes, but it wasn't called that at the time.
Wow.
Do a walkthrough, prioritize collection. Some evidence is perishable and can get warm or melt or be washed away in the elements. Next, photos, video, and 3D imaging. That's all before ever collecting a shred of evidence to be analyzed for biologics, DNA, and digital forensics at the lab. It's a painstaking process with a complexity that can be astonishing.
If it's a much larger house with a transient population, you're having people depositing information there, evidence, if you will, over periods of time.
And we have that at 1122 King Road because there's people coming in and out of there. We saw the body cam footage. You talk about a transient crime scene. This is a lot of people in and out. At least he said spatter. Yes, he didn't say splatter.
It may or may not be relevant to the crime scene.
Ed's laughing.
But
Ed is laughing in the green room on that.
Professional has to go and look and collect what they believe may solve or give answers to what happened at that house.
And that is exactly what detectives in Moscow had to contend with. A well-visited, sprawling home set into the hillside. In the college killings, digital forensics presumably playing a major role. The training center showing how carefully cell phones, tablets, and computers are taken from a scene and brought to the lab for processing, ensuring they don't make contact with any network.
Guys, go back.
The larger ones, you can put a phone in here.
Right there. Hold that right there.
Lab for some computers are
right here.
Okay, so folks, what you're looking at here are several types of what's known as Faraday bags. Now, what these bags do is you can put electronics like cell phones in there, iPads, laptops, things of that nature, and it keeps electronic signals from coming out of the bag and from entering the bag into the electronics.
Right. So it's not sending out any signals of any
or receiving any signals.
Correct. Yeah, because that could contaminate.
Well, yeah, somebody could remotely go into a device like that and start deleting things.
Right. So it's a safety factor for keeping evidence, storing evidence, and not having anybody deleting it. Thank you for that, Ed. All right. So I just wanted to show that because I think a lot of people are interested in seeing that. Let me share the link. I'd like maybe one or two. A lot of people are scared to come up with us. Ed, I don't know why people are scared of us. I think they should be able to come up and ask questions. No question is not good. Every question is good. I wanted to go to that crime scene that our good friend from the UK, Mr. HUUX, HUUX. Guy's talented because he really did an unbelievable job of this crime scene workup. And I know, Ed, you had a chance to look at it.
Yeah, we had his stuff on the show once before, and he just keeps going at it and improving his stuff. I enjoy it.
His craft is remarkable.
Yeah.
So he has the floor plans. I think that maybe that would be a good thing to take a peek at first.
Yeah. So what he did is he's created floor plans with and what he calls an elevation, which is really a cross section, but that's another architectural issue. But
we started at third floor and then work our way down.
Well, let's show the floor plans. Let's show the floor plans.
First, and what he's showing the floor plans, I want to just say this. Here's something that's really remarkable that he did here, and I think it's very respectful. Is right here. There's a red star, and you click on it, and it shows the victims. That was a really nice touch that he did to this presentation, and the detailed information in here is very good. So I commend him. I follow him on Twitter, but there's no way to get in contact with him. You can't even send him a DM. So where do you want me to start with the floor plans, Ed?
Yeah, just bring up the first floor plan. No, all of them. The picture with all of them.
Right.
Okay. So, folks, he's laid this out. And he's got measurements, and it looks like he's got some kind of scale going here. But what he's done is put hyperlinks on each of these floor plans that if you click on that particular link, it'll bring you inside the room. And then inside the room, there are additional links, and it allows you to rotate the image inside the room in 360 degrees. Yeah, so just pick a room and click on it. Okay, so third floor. Is that where we're at?
Yeah, this is the third floor where the nice sheep was found.
And so there are subsequent hyperlinks in here. And when you put your cursor over it, like on the bed, it says knife was found, and then go back there and you can read what it says there. All right.
This is from the affidavit. He puts page 2 of the affidavit.
It makes a really nice courtroom presentation, and it's all referenced and linked. And all right, X that out. I think there's another hyperlink on the bed up in the corner by the headboard.
I entered this bedroom. I could see 2 females in the single bed in the room. Both Goncalves and Mogan were.
So he's got the actual statements of the officer from the affidavit. Over in the left-hand corner, there's another one. Yeah. And so that brings you there, and then you can rotate, look up, look down. A lot of what we can do with the 3D laser scan is done here.
This is Madison Mogan's bedroom.
This would be something was something that I used to do for crime scene presentations in the court for the trial.
So this is legitimate, right where Bryan Kohberger, or allegedly Bryan Kohberger, would be standing as he comes into this bedroom. You can see there's a hallway right behind him that leads downstairs. If you stand here,
yeah, you go there and then you click and turn around, and it shows you the hallway. It shows you the staircase
right there,
and then you can click on the next dot and go down further and walk yourself through the scene.
Right. So this is a pretty impressive presentation. This HUUX, HUUX. Hey, listen, Beckfest is with us. She's always got great questions and comments. As soon as she gives me the thumbs up, I'll add her in. I don't like to, especially our lady friends, I don't like to add them until their hair and makeup is right. So Beckfest, she gave me the thumbs up. So here she is. Hey.
Hey guys, can you hear me okay?
All right.
We can hear you fine. How are you?
Okay, cool. Good. How are you? Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Like the tiger. What are we representing there?
Oh, it's just a concert t-shirt, honestly.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. So just nothing big, but I just thought I'd call and say hi. No one is coming up. So I kind of cut in a little bit after you started. So I just had a quick question for you guys. Were you saying that the new, exclusive or whatever stuff about the IDs, are you saying that it's not necessarily a physical ID, but you're saying that it could be identification of a victim, as meaning clothing item, like something that could identify that he was in the house, but not necessarily like an ID card?
No, I'm saying physical IDs as in an ID card, as opposed to somebody was thinking more of the lines of like DNA ID. Okay.
Oh.
No. Okay. I'm saying if it had to fit in a glove, so and multiple IDs. They could have clarified that a little better in their news presentation, but I believe it is identification cards.
So multiple, like driver's license.
Could be, or college IDs, or.
Have you guys ever seen like a situation where somebody collects other people's driver's license and it's not nefarious?
Well, no, not nefarious.
Yeah.
Yeah, not nefarious. Well, usually if you have multiple IDs, it's to do some kind of criminal act.
Right.
Okay.
That's interesting.
I caught a terrorist on a car stop in Manhattan, and he had multiple fraudulent identifications on him.
Right. Interesting. So, and because we haven't really heard of him going by another name yet, it'll be curious to see what the IDs come out as belonging to.
Now, if he does have IDs, picture IDs of himself with aliases, well, guess what? There goes a whole nother host of warrants that have to go out to all the social media people, the Venmo accounts, bank accounts. So, I mean, to see.
Do you think those would have already gone out by now?
Yeah, sure. I mean, as soon as they found the IDs, if they were able to associate that he had multiple fraudulent IDs of different names, they would definitely start.
Would the subpoenas be sent out by where he was arrested from, assuming the IDs were found at his parents' house, or would they be sent out by Idaho, Lucy?
Well, in the state of Pennsylvania, just like in the state of New York, in most states, criminal possession of a forged instrument is a felony. So if they identified that in Pennsylvania, there could be potentially Pennsylvania crimes that they could have enforced. But I think what Pennsylvania did is just deferred everything over to Idaho. I don't know. They may revisit that now that they're looking at potential cold cases and Brian's involvement in Pennsylvania. So, because that could be a way to arrest him and hold him in Pennsylvania as well while they conduct their investigation. But he's not going anywhere in the Idaho prison.
That's the good news, Beckfest, is that Bryan Kohberger is in custody, and he's in custody for the unforeseeable future. So that gives investigators all the time in the world, with, dotting their I's and crossing their T's, to find out all of the details. If he was involved, in fact, in any other crimes, we don't know. No agencies have confirmed definitively. We're hearing news reports, right? So that's what we're left with here. Is the pool open? When's the invite coming over?
Yeah, no, we have a heater on, but I live in Arizona, so
it looks great.
Definitely, it's nice, and the hot tub is definitely open.
What part of Arizona? South or north? You don't have to give me the town.
South.
Nice.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Love it.
Yep.
Hey, I'm willing to travel. I'm willing to travel, Beckfest. I'm willing.
Oh,
to
you
travel.
can. I'll leave it. I'll leave it open. I would maybe skip July and August if I were you, but you can come any other month.
Listen,
any other month.
Arizona is one of the few states where you can be a snowbird in your state.
Correct.
That's right. That's right.
He's right about August and even September. Some parts of September are really hot because I've been to Vegas.
It is.
When you go to Vegas in September, I have a sign on my social media of me pointing to a thermometer poolside at one of the the resorts we were at.
Yeah.
It was like 103 degrees, and it was 10:30 Vegas. It was 10:30 New York time, and I got hell for it because I was drinking a beer at that time. So, what are you gonna do? All right,
it's enjoyable. So come and enjoy it.
I want to show the bedroom where Zaina and Ethan were found, but I'm gonna let you run. We have kids screaming in the background. Beckfest, thank you for being here.
They just noticed that I was outside, so
okay.
Here they come.
Thank you.
Okay, but thank you guys.
Thank you.
Yep, and have a good Friday.
Okay, you too.
Happy Easter.
Thank you. Happy Easter.
Yeah, hide those Easter eggs for those little ones. Hide the Easter eggs all around.
I will. I accidentally Googled it last night in front of my oldest. Shouldn't have done it.
Oh boy.
Yep,
big mistake.
Okay.
Big mistake.
I know. We'll be
all right.
okay.
Take
All
care,
right.
Beckfest. Thank you.
Bye.
Always love hearing from her. She's awesome. All right, so we're going to wrap it up, but I want to go to the bedroom.
Karen Cole's in the waiting room.
Oh, Karen's here. Oh, hey, I didn't even see her. Hey, Karen, how are you? From the UK. That's our attorney and our good friend who does all our reels for Instagram. And now we're going to load them up on YouTube. Karen, how are you?
Hey, how are you?
You're up past your bedtime.
Yeah, way past. I've got you on the TV as well. So Ed was away when we were talking about this last time, but I had a real worry about the blood that was on the side of the house, and if they tear that house down, I would like Ed to talk about that.
Well, hopefully they took samples of that already. Hopefully they took samples and they had that tested, and it probably is going to come back to the victims. Okay. And
this is what Karen's referring to right here.
That's right. That's the headboard was right against that wall.
And Ed, you predicted it without even having these images and details. Remember, you said you would imagine that there was a front window that faced out to the parking lot.
Right.
I'm circling it on the cursor right now. So this is the front windows, the two crank out windows, casement they call them. And here's the bed setting up on the south wall. And right below that south wall is what Karen was just talking about, the blood.
Correct.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they have photographs of it, as you've seen. They probably took swabs and submitted it to the lab for analysis. So the fact that the stains in and of themselves may not be there anymore. That's one, that shouldn't be a big thing. Now, if somebody wants to do a test, which you can't do on a 3D laser scan, and if they still are, doubting Thomases, being that we're coming up on Easter,
Right.
that someone can do a test. Just go there and pour some water, and in the back of that wall right there, and see if that water comes out the same way the blood did.
Right, but also they're going to have the original photos that were taken, the 3D laser scanner.
Right. All of that's done already. Yeah.
The interior, exterior. They're going to have video and all kinds of high-res photos to look at. But like you said, Ed, those bloodstains may very well still be on the outside of that house.
I hope not. Honestly, I hope not.
Well, I'm going to say this: Brian Entin was filling in, I think, for one of the in studio. I don't know if it was for Banfield or for Dan Abrams. I think it was Abrams. And one of his reporters, I wish I saved it, went out, and the security at that location, current, this happened within the last 10 days. He went out to the location. The security allowed him to come beyond the fence. And the reporter got right up to the backyard, right up into the backyard with the security guard. They, oh God, if anybody's got that, send it to me on my Twitter on a DM. I'd like to show that here. And when I was actually watching it, you could see still, like, they didn't home right in on it, but you could see that area. Mm-hmm. So I was trying to, I don't remember if I looked in, but Ed, could you talk about these blood stains? I mean, how long would that stay there if nobody scrubbed it off?
It still should be there. If nobody scrubbed it off, if no one sampled it or cleaned it up, there's no reason why it wouldn't be there. Okay. You may get some local critter who gets a scent of that and comes over and is curious and may alter it in some fashion. Yeah.
Yeah, because in court, they're demonstratives, right? Like pictures and photographs and stuff. So you need the evidence, some sort of testing evidence to back it up, right?
Right. So they would do, if they didn't think it was blood, they would do a presumptive field test out there at the scene. And there's any number of presumptive field tests that you could use in crime scene investigations. But if you wanted to be more specific, you would use one. It's called OBTI, and it's more specific for human blood, while the other blood tests that are normally used are not specific to just human. It could be animal blood as well. But even after you got a positive result, then you sample it and you send it to the lab, and then they do a genetic workup on it to see whose blood it is.
What is the OT? What does that acronym stand for that you said? The OT?
All right, hold on. You're gonna make me do this now.
Ed,
I have the package. I got to go get it. It's in my crime scene kit in the garage.
Forget about it. I want to say,
no.
Florida.
When you showed us, you did some blood spattering tests or showed us some stuff. So what do those long,
they're called rivulets.
Rivulets. Okay. So
yeah, rivulets.
Does that mean it pooled? There was so much blood that it pooled and dripped down?
Yeah, there was probably pooling blood at the wall and the floor behind the headboard of the bed, and then it due to gravity and liquid seeking their low point, it made it through all of that, the walls, the subfloor, the sill plate, and came out onto the foundation wall. You can see that it dripped.
Ed, what are these boxes and all this stuff here? Is this for crime scene evidence collection?
Yeah, it looks like the typical crime scene kits, and that gray kit, could contain, could contain blood sampling kits. It could be a fingerprint kit in there. I'm not sure exactly what's being stored in there. And then the orange kits, we use like rolling tool kits that you can buy at Home Depot, Lowe's, or anything like that.
This looks like a Milwaukee toolkit.
It looks like it has the Milwaukee symbol there.
Yeah.
But it doesn't look like anything's been tested there, right? Wouldn't there be? Yeah. Like something not showing if it was tested already? Don't they have to remove it or scrape it or?
Well, they would swab it. Yeah, they would swab a section of it. I'm not sure that I could see that, but
yeah. Marie,
okay, so they don't need to scrape it. Then they can just swab.
They could just swab it. Yeah, they wet a swab head with the deionized water, and then they'll swab that area, and then depending on the kit, certain kits you have these ampules in a vial. You stick the swab in there, crush one ampule, wet the reagent
Oh,
into the swab.
you had a box that you showed us before that it.
Yeah, the OBTI is more like a home pregnancy kit,
Right.
okay, or a COVID test.
There you go.
So it looks like that's OBTI.
Hold on.
So you put your swab in the well with the and you mix it. I'm sorry, you mix it with the water there in the back of the red vial, and you put your swab in there, and then you put a few drops of that into the well, and if the blood is present, you'll get the 2 lines.
Yeah.
Oh.
Maria Hernandez says somebody described the scene as a bloodbath. Yes.
Yes.
Really.
Had to be, yeah.
Really horrific. A couple of people are commenting on your accent. Where are you from? They want to know. Karen.
So I'm actually Canadian, and I moved over to the UK 27 years ago. Just got my retirement.
Yeah,
So-
that's wondering why you didn't say telly instead of television.
Oh, no, I still sound very Canadian, even for people
Right.
over here. They say, what
but
part of California are you from?
But I'm not hearing the A at the end of your sentences.
Yeah, I should do. But yeah, so I've been over here quite a while, but I still have, but even in Canada, people thought I was from California. So it's not really a Canadian accent either.
So, not really, no.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I wouldn't think California though.
Yeah, funny, but I did go to California, and I thought, wow, I do sound like
Yeah. That's what they say about us New Yorkers down in New Orleans.
Yeah.
They think I'm from New Orleans. I said, no, I'm from New York. So you sound just like you're from New Orleans.
But the odd thing is we have homes in Florida. So I spent 2 or 3 months in Florida every year.
As
So
a
I'm
Canadian or
surprised
as a Brit?
As a snowbird.
Yes. You come down I-75, right?
I-75, 23 hours.
There you go. See, I know all that stuff. Yeah. I
Yeah.
see on the West Coast, that's where all the Canadians are. On
Yeah,
the East,
yeah.
East
From
Coast
Ontario.
Yeah.
We used to cross over to Michigan because I grew up right on a border.
Right.
Yeah.
Here's a question coming in from Richella Pranzo. I know you guys are chatting it up, but people are still rapid firing questions. Richella Pranzo, who's Pete Pranzo's wife, she's the commander of the home, commander in chief. Pete is second in command. She says, question, could the glove with the ID be the match to the one found outside the house in the snow? I don't think so.
No, I don't either, because that area was searched before there was snow on the ground by those garbage cans, and that was found by that YouTuber from California.
Right. Yes,
So-
and yeah, so there would be no match to that, because that glove was turned in, processed, and deemed not to have any connection to the crime scene. I think it was one of the reporters discarded their glove or something of that effect.
Yeah,
nothing to do with
One
this.
thing I want to say, and especially with DutyRon and Ed, is that the misrepresentation that we were talking about in the previous heading for, that they found DNA on the sheath.
Right.
I thought that was like, how can they legally get away with that? Like, I know in UK we would have a real hard time with that.
Yeah, absent malice, the press gets away with a lot here in the United States.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, and I'm surprised YouTube doesn't say anything about it, because they're pretty strict with other people.
Oh yeah.
They let a lot of things. They let a lot of things go that they shouldn't let go. So it is what it is. I put the link in the chat for one last time if somebody wants to come in, because Ed and I, we got to wrap it up. We're old folks and we got to get to bed. Karen,
I got to get to bed.
What time is it in the UK? Just out for shits and giggles.
Just a second, I got to check. I don't know.
She doesn't know. She's here with us.
It's almost 3:30.
A.M.
3:30 a.m. Well, it's 3:20. It's 3:20.
3:20. Yeah. Yeah, I go to bed around 4 o'clock every night. So
Hey, go up to Scotland and say hi to my cousins.
Okay.
Oh gosh, did you just hear about the Scottish first prime minister's husband being arrested?
Yes, heard about it. Yes.
All right. So look at this comment coming in from J.M. McGee. Wait, no DNA on sheath?
That's not I don't know where you got that from. There was touch DNA on the buckle of the snap of the sheath. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I should probably say goodnight then, so you can.
Okay, Karen, thank you so
Thank
much.
you, Karen.
Okay, thanks. Bye.
Wait. No.
What?
Everybody go over and subscribe to Karen Legal Minded Friends on YouTube. I'm putting you full screen so you can tell everybody. What do you do on your YouTube channel, Karen?
Yeah, so the YouTube is it gives a visual to legal questions asked and answered, and I've been doing sort of trying to explain so English. So if you want to know what the law is in the UK compared to USA, I've been doing a lot of videos on that, or just explain new laws that come out, and hopefully, get a conversation going with people and stuff.
I would love everyone to go over and subscribe. I'll link it in the description after the video's over. I don't have it in there now, but I'll link a description in the description so you can just click on it, because I know a lot of people, they don't want to type it in.
I mean, like when you did the one on what's it going to be like in prison for Murdoch.
Yeah.
I happen to know somebody, a pretty high profile person that went to prison in the UK. So I said, hey, can you give me an interview?
And he did.
And this chap, it was really good, because I mean, I was a parole officer and I didn't even know what goes on.
Wow.
So it's awesome. Yeah.
She's got a lot of great content on there. And Karen also helps Crime Time with DutyRon. She creates the real.
But you inspire me, DutyRon. That's why I do some of them. I piggyback on some of your stuff.
So I inspire you, but you help because you make all the reels for us. I want to say thank you to you for all the efforts that you put forth for making those reels for me and Ed. And we greatly appreciate you, Karen. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you. Nice to see you, Ed.
Okay, you too.
All right. There she goes. That was Karen Cole from Legal Minded Friends on YouTube. Dawn Marie, if you could put her in the chat, if you could just put it in the chat, her channel, I greatly appreciate it. I want hearts to touch. Keeps putting in the chat. DutyRon and Ed, we love you. We'd love to see you get to 1,000 thumbs up.
How many are we at?
We'll get there eventually. I don't know. That's really not that important at this point, but I thank you for that. Thank you for putting that in the chat. That's really sweet. I want to also say thank you to all the replay viewers, the folks who became new channel members, and also the folks who sent super chats and became new subscribers. Ed and I love.
Don't forget the Patreon supporters.
Yeah, the Patreon supporters are unbelievable, because every month the Patreon supporters, they not only support us and help us do what we do, but they're also giving us ideas for shows, Ed. So
that's right.
I encourage you guys to go over to DutyRon.com, and there's a section on there for contact me and Ed. You could put in your contacts form, show ideas. We want to know what you want us to cover. We're going to be talking on the Letitia Stout. That trial is going on with poor Gannon Stout. We have Lori Shallow Vallow. She's going on trial. That's going to be commencing soon. There was movement today in Harmony, Montgomery. They were searching a swamp area in New Hampshire or outside of New Hampshire. So there's so much stuff that's going on. Ed's going to be traveling on a family vacation. So come next week, Ed's going to be on his actual vacation. So don't crucify him. He's not on business anymore. He's going family. I told him to keep his camera and his mic home. He's like, I got my phone, Ron. I got my phone. So Ed, you're going to be taking a trip with your family. Enjoy your decompress and do what you got to do. Kick back, have a Mai Tai or whatever you drink over there, and
sake.
Sake and plum wine. Have a great time. I want to just put this picture up because this is what this was about. Justice for Ethan, Zaina, Kaylee, and Maddie. These 4 victims, their families, the community, everybody, their extended families. We want to get justice for them. And by us having these respectful, intelligent conversations with you guys, we want to keep these 4 in the forefront, because that's what this is all about. This is about them. They were brutally murdered on November 13th of 2022, in the middle of the night, while they were either up or sleeping. It's horrible, horrible crime, and we want to get justice for them.
Amen.
Yeah, thank you, Ed. I want everyone to know, too, that you're going to be sent over to Police Off the Cuff, who are live now 15, 20 minutes into their show. They're going to be continuing to talk about 1122 King Road and the demolition. So go over and support Bill, Phil, I think Mike Geary is on tonight, and Melanie Little. But you'll be sent from here over to there, and tell them when you get in there that it's a DutyRon raid, DutyRon and Ed raid. So when you get directed over to Police Off the Cuff, let them know you're coming from our show and say hi to them. But in the chat, flood it with DutyRon raid.
It's it's a no-knock raid. Just go right in.
DutyRon and Ed raid. No knock warrant. We're coming in. We're busting it on your show. And you better have some good stuff for us. But we know he will.
Should I send them off with a song?
Yeah, Ed, go ahead. Full screen. Song time for Ed.
Oh, is it? Guys, you want to hear a song? Uh-oh.
A lot of justice for the chat. The chat's a little delayed, Ed, so don't be discouraged by it. Everybody wants to hear you sing.
Okay, here we go.
Saluthy is here too, so you're not safe anymore, Ed. Saluthy is here.
Okay, here we go.
Hopefully you're not going to sing something that's going to get us a copyright strike.
How lucky can one guy be? I kissed her and she kissed me. Like the fella once said, ain't that a kick in the head?
Woo!
The room was completely black. I hugged her and she hugged back. Like the sailor said, quote, ain't that a whole boat? I hate spinning. I go to sleep and keep grinning. If this is just the beginning, my life is gonna be beautiful. I've sunshine enough to spread. It's like the fella said. Tell me quick, ain't love a kick in the head? There you go, folks.
Woo! Sing it, boy. That was awesome. Ed is not only smart, but he can sing too. Wow. I love it. So yeah, that was awesome, Ed. 190 thumbs away from 1,000 thumbs up. Ed just knocked it out of the park. Now Cassandra is saying, I'm in love with Ed. Anybody in the chat can name that? Somebody already did. There it is. Michael Bublé style. No, but can someone name that song? Let's go. Let's see for first person who can name that song. Nobody. Not yet. It's a little delayed.
Yeah, what happened?
It's the chat's just delayed tonight. So people are saying more. Wow, he's ready for vacation. People are like, Ed's letting his hair down. How lucky, somebody said. You got me. Great
All
show.
right, first
guys.
of all, who sang it?
It sounds like
who sang it?
That sounds like Sinatra to me.
No, it was one of the Rat Pack, but it wasn't Sinatra.
Oh, Dean Martin.
Dean Martin, that's right.
Thank you. It was
And the
either
name
one
of
of
the
those.
song? Name of the song? Come on, is anybody going to get it?
That's
Ain't that a kick in the head? Brownie 84. Okay.
Brownie 84 got it, and so did Pete.
Yeah, Pete.
All right, guys and girls. Again, like I said, Ed's going to be traveling, so we're giving him we're giving him an excusal for the rest of his time. He'll be back in about 2 weeks or so. So enjoy your vacation. Have a safe one. Send us a lot of photos if you can, Ed. Send me photos that you want me to share with everybody. And if anything, like I said, if anything big breaks, I'll handle it with somebody. I'm sure I'll get someone to come in and step into the shoes. Nobody will ever be able to fill your shoes, but I know I'll be able to get someone to cover for you if we have something big that's going to happen. But we will be continually covering these great cases that are all going on. Thank you to everybody for all of the accolades and all of the compliments that you guys are putting forth in the chat. Remember, you're going to be sent over to Police Off the Cuff, Real Crime Stories, which they're already halfway into the show. I want you guys to flood their chat with the DutyRon raid. And again, as I always like to end these, God bless the world, God bless the United States of America, and God bless each and every one of us here in the chat, but especially these for victims and their families. We send strength, prayers, and positive vibes to them, the communities, the first responders, and everyone that's taxed with bringing justice for these victims. Ed, I know you got something to say.
Folks, stay safe, stay prepared, and watch your six.
And stand by for a message from the COP team. That's Kara, Oscar, and Popeye.
That's right.
It's a good acronym. I like it, Ed.
Yes, cops.
Here we go. Good night, everybody. Peace and love.
We need to go out with a bad boys.